The Flamer is a highly forgettable weapon when it comes to Fallout 4. It's something I have personally never used in any of my given playthroughs until today's video, and it's something that I never really thought about using because I never really suspected it to be a good weapon. That's why I wanted to ask if you can beat Fallout 4 using only the Flamer. Naturally, the first thing to do is create a character and pick our special stats. I wasn't really sure what to go with on this run as I had a lot of extra points that I'm not used to considering the Flamer doesn't require any perks to modify the weapon, so I pretty much just grabbed the necessary skills like Idiot Savant and Heavy Gunner and then went with that. First things first, after getting out into the world, I marked on the map where you can pick up a Flamer for free off the ground because there wasn't a whole lot of locations that you can get one early on, and the ones that I knew of off the top of my head were not until late game. I, of course, just went and checked the wiki because that is the most reliable way for information that I don't know, and found that there was a very easy Flamer that I can just easily walk to and pick up, which is exactly where I headed. The run there was mostly boring, except for picking up a few key things, like a suit of power armor for one, to keep myself safe. I would not be using it for the majority of the run, I just needed to keep myself from dying here and there as I didn't have a weapon yet. I play Fallout 4 heavily modded with a few difficulty mods that make enemies do more damage, and also add variants of enemies that are a lot stronger than anything found in vanilla, so of course I'm going to take any advantage that I can get. Once I had made it to where I needed to go and picked up my Flamer, which, lucky me, was nearly maxed out on modifications, I ended up stopping by Bunker Hill to hopefully buy some ammo. Sadly, the one that I found on the ground did not come with any ammo, and fuel is a pretty weird ammo to just find out in the world, so I was kind of out of luck unless I wanted to go to Diamond City or check a good neighbor for one of the merchants there. So, of course, needing Diamond City for later in the game, I just headed there. Arturo wasn't actually selling any at this point because of my level, which was kind of depressing, and then I went over to check the 24-hour Sword Plus and found them selling a whopping 6 Flamer fuel. It was at this point that I decided, hey, executive decision, we're not going to sit around for 4 hours and give myself enough ammo to actually play the game, and I used the tactic that I used during my bolt action pipe run and the classic plasma pistol run to just give myself Flamer fuel while taking away caps from my player. After that, I headed back to Concord so that I could start testing out the Flamer, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much damage this thing was doing. Keep in mind I am playing on very hard, so I'm taking a lot of damage, nearly getting 2 to 3 shot by most raiders early on, but I'm also dishing out a whole lot of damage with this Flamer. Considering it had pretty much max damage mods already applied to it that I didn't really have to do anything about it myself, it made it a quite decent weapon early on. I did change out the nozzle a little later on in the run to lose about 2 damage I think, but give myself nearly double the range, just because the range that it currently had was severely lacking, but I mean, I was able to take down the Deathclaw almost instantaneously. After I dealt with everything in Concord, I immediately headed to Park Street Station, which I had discovered earlier, to start clearing out the Triggermen. The Triggermen were about as weak as the Raiders. I just took my time here so that I didn't have to waste any unnecessary healing items. The Triggermen weren't all that challenging. They did dish out a decent amount of damage because the SMGs, considering I didn't really have good armor at this point, could really rip through my health with just general ease considering the difficulty that I'm playing on, as well as the mods that I have that make me take more damage, which, you know, that's kind of on me for using those, but at the same time, it kind of makes the game a little more fun to play, so I just keep them on anyways. By this point, I had made it to the vault, killed all the Triggermen that were in my way, and rescued Nick so that we could start fighting our way out of the vault against, of course, more Triggermen, and I could continue on with the story. The Triggermen were, again, not much of a challenge. That includes Skinny Malone and his group, who all died in record time. I was actually surprised at how fast I managed to kill them with the Flamer. This gun honestly doesn't start dropping off for me until like way later in the game. And of course, we'll get to that when it comes, but of course I had to go off and rob Kellogg's house first, as is tradition. Inside, I found a suit of NCR Ranger armor, which I took for myself. I also equipped it. Yes, it's modded, and I don't care. It's gorgeous, and I will be using it in every subsequent playthrough from now on. Once I'd made it to Fort Hagen, I made the mistake of trying to fight the raiders there, which was a little bit above my pay grade. I wasted a lot of unnecessary healing items on the raiders outside before, of course, telling Dogmeat to piss off once I was inside, and then started mowing down the synths. The synths were a lot easier than I was expecting, honestly. I don't know why, but I figured the flamer doing energy damage, the synths would be like, I don't know, resistant to it, but they're not. Although they're not more difficult, really. I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of pushing a 5th grader down a flight of stairs to pushing a 3rd grader down a flight of stairs in terms of difficulty. It's not that much more than I was expecting. Kellogg, on the other hand, died almost instantly. I was highly impressed by how fast the flamer was able to kill him. I don't know if it's just because he's an early game fight or what, but I mean, you compare this to the BB gun run that I just did, and man, oh man, was Kellogg just so much easier this time around. Anyways, it was time for me to go off and deal with the next part of the game, which is not what I did. I have no clue what I was doing, but I just was like, hey, you know what would be cool? Let's go to Old North Church and kill all the railroad. I don't know why I thought that was the next thing that I needed to do for the game. It clearly wasn't. I hadn't even been to Good Neighbor or the Glowing Sea for Virgil yet. I don't know where my mental process got lost there, but eventually I did correct myself and end up in Good Neighbor with Nick so that I could talk to Dr. Amari and begin my favorite part of the game. That is, of course, Kellogg's Memories. I despise running around in here, but every time I run through here, it makes me think about how much Bethesda fumbled the memory den. I feel like there could have been so many cool things that they could have done here, whether it be, you know, other bosses that we get to relive their memories, or adding DLC like Operation Anchorage. I just feel like Bethesda could have done more with this place versus just, you know, shoe lining it into the main story, but, you know, that's an entire conversation that I can go over, which I'm not going to do here, because I had to go to the Glowing Sea and, of course, find Virgil. While I was here, I decided that I was going to just cook all of the children of Adam alive for some reason. I don't know why I decided to slaughter them this time around, as usually I'm fairly nice to them. But of course, I talked to Virgil and then headed off to Green Tech Genetics. Boy, oh boy, Green Tech Genetics. This place is either hit or miss for me on any of these runs, honestly. I feel like half the runs I've done on Fallout 4, I've not struggled with this place, and then the other half the runs that I've done on Fallout 4, this place has infuriated me to no end. This run was more of the latter. I really just wasted more healing items here than I wanted to. It was just kind of sad. I think I went through like 30 plus stim packs in here just because of how much damage I was taking, but at least on the bright side, the Courser went down pretty much instantly without a fight, which was kind of funny. I also burned all the witnesses alive because, well, I have to. Walking around with a literal portable war crime is just, you know, I've got to commit it on pretty much anybody that I can. Honestly, makes me kind of sad that I can't really do genocide runs in Fallout 4, but that's, again, another conversation for another day. Anyways, I had the Courser chip analyzed by, of course, me, went back to Virgil so that I could get the plans to build the whatever for Institute stuff, yeah, technology, went off and killed a couple settlers to assist the Minutemen, because I was definitely not going to do their questline this time around. Not after last time, not after the last, like, 3 times that I've done it and the game has broke on me. God, I hate the Minuteman questline. Anyways, I built the signal interceptor, Sturgis sent me into the Institute, and it was time for the longest 45 minutes of random bullshit dialogue of my life. I hate dealing with the Institute institutionalized quest. I think it's just a bunch of talking, so we're gonna skip over it and just head off to Libertalia so that you can watch me get absolutely bullied by a bunch of raiders. Libertalia, with my difficulty mods, is probably one of the most difficult areas in the game. The raiders here are all just like insanely high-leveled variants that all have really damn good weapons, whether they be weapons from mods that are really overtuned and kind of not balanced, or just straight up OP versions of base game weapons. And being, of course, extremely high-level variants, this place is often a nightmare. I got put into the no-no corner and harassed multiple times before I was able to make it to the synth and use the recall code and finally make it out of Libertalia alive, where I headed back to Father and he let me know it was time for the Battle of Bunker Hill. I don't know why, but for some reason my brain wanted to go to the Battle of Hoover Dam. Anyways, I got harassed by a legendary fog crawler as soon as I got there. It did not drop anything notable, which was, of course, just depressing as usual. I was hoping that I would get a legendary flamer this run because that would be absolutely amazing. Like, for example, if I got the one that can cripple targets or a wounding flamer, I mean, holy shit. I have seen the wounding flamer used before, and it is just an amazing weapon. I would love to have, gotten one of those for this run, but that would have trivialized everything, so, of course, can't do that. Anyways, with the synths, of course, rescued and all that done, I don't really like the Battle of Bunker Hill. It's kind of anticlimactic and boring, considering I was only enemies with the railroad. Just kind of makes it not as exciting. Speaking of, I should actually look into some mods to make that more explosive and fun. Might see if I can make that more torture for me next time I play through Fallout 4. But moving on, it was time for Mass Fusion. The Brotherhood is by far the most difficult faction that I could have chose to fight with the Flamer. I mean, the ones in power armor, of course, already have a stupid amount of resistances, but with my mods that increase difficulty, the Brotherhood just get equipped with a ridiculous amount of high-powered weaponry. You'll see later on when I attack them at the airstrip, it is just sad how strong they are. I feel like I had this in another run, although I don't remember which one, that the Brotherhood was just kicking my ass, and it's no different here. On the bright side, though, I was able to take down the legendary sentry bot extremely quickly. It overheated immediately, which kind of makes me wonder if the flamer can do that to robots. I've never actually tested that or seen anything regarding that. It was very curious to me, and I kind of want to look into that more. Anyways, after that, I had to go rescue some scientist that the Institute couldn't drag out of his closet, and of course, I got lucky and passed my charisma check on the first try. Of course, I didn't have to quick save spam this time, which was lucky for me. After that, I spread some loving propaganda, and then had to go off to Diamond City to mess around with the buttons and the dials. This part of the game just kind of seemed redundant to me. It's kind of sad that something like this was included, but a lot of other cooler quests got cut. But then again, I digress. It's Fallout 4. Anyways, I went off to install the reactor, and then I'm going to skip over the rest of the boring dialogue because this video is already kind of dragging on a little bit longer than normal, so I had to go deal with the Brotherhood at the airstrip. This was terrifying. The Brotherhood here, there's just so many, and I was getting harassed every 3 minutes when I got here. I mean, I couldn't even make it to the first couple generators without getting bullied by this one Brotherhood knight that just had an overpowered ass weapon. Eventually, I was able to kill him and start taking out the generators, and that's what makes this kind of somewhat not a headache. Because once I take out the generators, I get synths to start, taking aggro for me and dealing damage to the Brotherhood, so it becomes a little bit easier. With the generators out of the way, and me finally feeling like I am not getting fisted in the ass anymore, I set down my synth relay beacons. Yes, they're grenades in the grenade category, and yes, I'm going to use them because they don't do damage. If you've got a problem with that, I don't really care. Anyways, with them down, I started to hack Liberty Prime. Well, I wasn't hacking it, but the little synth was. I was too busy getting caught up in looting legendary enemies to notice my health dropping, and then I died. I did this a couple times before realizing that I should actually just pay attention and not be a legendary whore and just sit up top and wait for the synth to be done hacking, which is what I did for the rest of the run. Elder Maxon never really showed up. I don't know where he went. I guess he just fell off the roof immediately or something. I'm not going to complain though. That would have been a nightmare to deal with. Anyways, I got teleported out, watched the Pridwin fall due to Liberty Prime booping it, and that was it. Well, not quite. I still had one more little thing to do before the run is over, and that's talk to Sean while he's dying. I did try to burn him alive at one point, but the game wouldn't let me, so that's that. I did beat Fallout 4 using only the Flamer. This run was actually a lot funner than I was expecting. Out of my 4 ideas that I posted a couple days ago, this was the run that I really didn't want to do out of them, but I'm kind of glad I did. I really actually enjoyed the Flamer. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. I appreciate each and every one of you for the support that you've been showing the channel lately. It is absolutely insane with the growth, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.